Welcome, beloveds. I pray you're having a really blessed day. And if you're going through some challenges, I pray that the Father brings peace to your heart. This is our weekly Bible study, Torah Portions. My name is Lanita. I'm the Scrappy Grandma. And this week is week 46. It's so exciting because we are almost to the end of this year's study, and we get to start all over again. And I'm hoping, praying that those of you that come across this video will start with me next year. We can either just communicate if you'd like to do it together, starting in Genesis 1:1, or we also have, and this is, would be preferable, would be to join our Discord group. We have about 15 sisters that we study the portion for the week, and then we have a call on Thursdays, and we just go over what the Father has shown us through His Word for the week. And it's really beautiful because we sharpen each other, we spur each other on, and we learn together and learn from and with each other. So it's really beautiful. So if that's something that sounds interesting, and let's see, this is week 50, 46, 47, 48, 49, 51, 52, but we've got 6 weeks left. Wow. There's 54, maybe 8 weeks left. I'll have to count through them. Well, let's do it right now real quick. So it's called Ekev. I think that's how it's pronounced. Not sure. So 47, let me go just to the back of the book and see what the last one is. That's 49, 54. Yeah, so it goes through 54. So we're at 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54. We have 8 more. 8 more to go. And then we start over. So in 9 weeks, we'll start back at Genesis 1:1. And it's just so beautiful to see how the Father peels back layers every year. I started this study a year ago, last month. So about 4 portions ago is where I started. So now I'm redoing this last part, and I just love how, just like when you read the Word, how different times, different things show up and you're like, I never saw that before. So that's what happens with this. So let's begin. I did hear from a couple of people that did let me know that they do like the commentary before, because it kind of sets the stage. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that. So it's Kev, and it's Deuteronomy 7:12 through 11:25. And the prophets, the Haftorah, is Isaiah 49:14 through 51:3, and Matthew 16:13 through 20. And from what I understand, and I'm just learning about this, is that the next through the rest of the Torah portion coming up to the set apart, the feast days, are the Sabbaths are, and we learn from Isaiah in the Haftorah, and that the Sabbaths are there. It's like a countdown to the feasts. So, and they are what's the word? Celebratory. Where is that from last year? Tish B'Av was consolation. One sec. But then after, I'm stuck. Here we go. Then last week was a Sabbath of comfort. And so, okay. And I think what it says here, is it's the first of 7 Haftorahs of consolation leading up to the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. So this is the next The next 7 readings all are the Haftorahs of consolation. So, all right. Oh, I think, and the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament is Matthew 16, 13 through 20. I already said that. Okay. In Parashat Ekev, Moshe continues his final speech to the Hebrew tribes, just before they were to enter the promised land. It begins, and it will be because you heed these judgments and guard and do them. Yahuah, your Elohim, will keep with you the covenant and the steadfast love that he swore to your fathers. This is really beautiful because last week in the portion that we went through, I learned, it's so beautiful. I learned that the commandments that Yahuah gave to us are his wedding vows to us and our wedding vows to him. You know, he has what he requires, or what he requires of his bride is that we keep these vows, the ketubah, the covenant of love. It was just so beautiful. And so instead of looking at the commandments as a list of restrictions and, the law, it is a beautiful, how perverted has the enemy made it? That the law is something that we don't want to be under, and instead it's a loving contract with the Creator as his bride. And so we don't understand that nowadays because we don't go into weddings with contracts and covenants. In fact, this last week, Rusty and I, as we went through that, and we both realized that we made covenants and vows with one another, that we were just doing what everybody does. I will, in honor and love and in sickness and in health, and the whole thing that we said 30 plus years ago to one another. But we never, so we're writing, we're coming up with our covenants that we have with one another. So anyway, so I will continue here. In other words, as long as the Hebrew tribes obey, his children obey the commandments of the Torah, they will prosper in the land that they're about to conquer, just as Yahuah promised to their forefathers. And we're in us now, because we're not in the promised land. We are sojourners in Egypt. We are slaves. We are slaves to this world system. Just say that, slave to this world system, and it's not our Father's system, and we're not under that. We live in it, but we don't have to be of it. And so, okay, so the speech continues. And because you listen to these rules and keep and do them, Yahuah your Elohim will keep with you the covenant of the steadfast love that he swore to your fathers. Deuteronomy 7:12. Okay, Ekev comes from the root word akav, to take by the heel, as does the name Jacob, who had grabbed the heel of his twin brother Esau while still in the womb of Rebekah. Jacob was later named Israel in commemoration of his struggle with the angel of Yahuah at Peniel. Yahuah then declared to him, your name shall no longer be Jacob, heel holder of Esau, but Israel, contender with God. For as a prince you have striven with your Elohim and with men and have prevailed. Genesis 32:28. The first occurrence of the root word appears in Genesis 3:15, where Yahuah prophesied that even though Mashiach's heel, that our Messiah's heel would be bruised, the very head of the serpent would be crushed. In this parsha, Israel is called to grapple with the commandments and to perform them diligently, lest they themselves be supplanted from the land vomit them out. And if you are grafted in, whether you are from the wild branch or from the native branch, meaning if you are from the 10 lost tribes or from Yehuda, if you are from one of the tribes of Israel by blood and genealogy, or if you have chosen to be a sojourner with them and come into covenant and be grafted in, this is all for us. I consider myself to be I'm actually learning that very good chance that I do have. I found out that my great 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 grandfather was Jewish on my father's side, and I didn't know my father until I was in my 30s. So this is, it's new information. My great 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 uncle was Washington Bartlett, and he was the first and only Jewish governor of the state of California. So, and I was his brother, and I forget it was an interesting name like Washington. I forget what it is now. Darn it! I really looking forward. I want to go through. My father has all the books, are the memoirs of of our family history. So I'm looking forward to going through those. Anyway, so this parsha begins with the call to keep and guard. Boy, I just love that we're to guard it. Fiercely guard the judgments given in the Torah. And as a reward, Yahuah will likewise guard his covenant and love that he gave to our fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Obedience to the commandments will yield blessings, plentiful children. Look at this. This is awesome. It will yield Okay. So obedience to the commands will yield blessings, plentiful children, harvests, livestock, and other material blessings in the land. Indeed, the Israelites would be blessed above all people, free of every type of sickness, living in victory in the promised land. And he promises, if we're obedient, this is our reward. But regarding the 7 nations of Canaan, the people who were not to live in fear, instead they were to exercise faith, recalling what Yahuah did to Pharaoh in Egypt when he delivered the people. So will Yahuah your Elohim do to all the peoples of whom you are afraid. You shall not be in dread of them, for Yahuah your Elohim is in your midst, a great and awesome Elohim. I've really been enjoying my iced tea. It's from weeds, herbs, literally from all over my property, and I dry them, and like mallow and herbs in my herb garden, melissa and mint and uh, uh, red clover and just all kinds of good stuff. And man, it's very refreshing. So, okay. For Yahuah your Elohim is in your midst, a great and awesome Elohim. The people were to have no tolerance for idols of any kind. They were to devote them to utter destruction, burning them with fire. The gold or the silver used for them was to be considered an abomination and not to be used for anything, lest it become a snare. So, remembering Yahuah's care, Moshe continues his speech by reminding the people how Yahuah had taken care of them throughout their wandering in the desert. For nearly 40 years, Yahuah humbled the people, feeding them with manna and giving them water from a miraculous rock. Even the Shekinah glory miraculously kept their clothes fresh. Moshe said that the Yahuah did this in order to teach the people to rely on him alone to meet all of their needs. The hardships had disciplined them to learn that man does not live by bread alone, but by everything that proceeds from the mouth of Yahuah. Yahusha used this very verse when he wandered 40 days and nights in the wilderness, thereby rebuffing the temptations of the devil. Matthew 4:4 and Luke 4:4. And now the promised land lay before the people, a land famous for the 7 spices of crops native to Israel: wheat, barley, figs, pomegranate, olives, dates, and grapes. As long as Israel would trust in Yahuah, he would give them this good land and continue to care for them, just as he did in the desert. Note that the obligation to bless Yahuah after eating bread comes from the verse. And this is something I just learned last week also, is that we're to say a blessing after we eat. So when you eat and are satisfied, you must bless Yahuah your Elohim. Deuteronomy 8:10. Isn't that awesome? For this reason, saying grace for meals is recited after the meal has been eaten. And it's really interesting because saying grace before a meal is something I've never been convicted to do, ever. I do it when I'm around people who feel convicted to do it, but I have never felt convicted to say grace before. And here it says we're supposed to say grace, or we're supposed to give thanks. We're supposed to bless Yahuah our Elohim because we've been able to eat and are satisfied. It's just so beautiful. No, that's rabbinical Judaism. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and then get started in the actual reading now. So I've kind of set the stage of what we're going to be reading. Alrighty. So it's Deuteronomy 7:12. And it shall be because, that's the name of it, Ekev, because you hear these right rulings and shall guard and do them, Shema, that's what Shema means, hear and do. That Yahuah your Elohim shall guard with you the covenant of the loving commitment which he swore to your fathers, and shall love and love you and bless you and increase you, and shall bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your land and your grain and your new wine and your oil, the increase of your cattle and the offspring of your flock in the land of which he swore to your fathers to give you. Blessed are you above all peoples. There is not going to be a barren man or a barren woman among you or among your livestock. And Yahuah shall turn away from you all sickness and put on you none of the evil diseases of Mitzrayim, Egypt, which you have known, but he shall put them on all of those who hate you. Wow, these are beautiful. And you shall consume all of the peoples whom Yahuah your Elohim is delivering over to you. Your eye shall not pardon them. And do not serve their mighty ones, for that is a snare to you. When you say in your heart, these nations are greater than I am unable to drive them out, that's not having any faith now at all, is it? Because Yahuah promised they would drive them out. Do not be afraid of them. Remember well that Yahuah your Elohim, Yahuah your Elohim did to Pharaoh and to all of Mitzrayim. The great trials which your eyes saw, and the signs and the wonders, the strong hand and the outstretched arm. The outstretched arm is the Yod, the first letter of Yahuah's name, Yod, outstretched arm, and it always refers to the Messiah. It is the physical embodiment of Yahuah, the outstretched arm. So whenever you see outstretched arm, underline it and know that that's Messiah. So the great trials which your eyes saw, and the signs and the wonders, the strong hand and the outstretched arm by which Yahuah your Elohim brought you out, Yahuah your Elohim does so to all the peoples of whom you are afraid. And Yahuah your Elohim also sends the hornet among them until those who are left, who hide themselves from you, are destroyed. So they're not, Yahuah is literally going to drive out these other nations. Sorry, I lost my spot. Or where's the hornet? Where's the hornet? Do not be afraid of them, for Yahuah your Elohim, great awesome El, in your midst. And Yahuah your Elohim shall drive out those nations before you little by little. You are not allowed to destroy them at once, lest the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. From what that makes me think is, okay, that they're going to take ground little by little. Because if they were to go and wipe everybody out, and some places are going to be uninhabited for a while, that the wildlife would move in, maybe. So, but Yahuah your Elohim shall deliver them over to you and destroy them with a great destruction until they are consumed. And he shall give their sovereigns into your hand, and you shall destroy their names from under the heavens. No one is going to be able to stand against you until they have destroyed them. The carved images and their mighty ones you are to burn with fire. Do not covet the silver or the gold that is on them, nor take it for yourself, lest you be snared by it. For it is an abomination to Yahuah your Elohim. And do not bring an abomination into your house. Boy, there we go. And do not bring an abomination into your house, lest you be accursed like it. Utterly loathe it and utterly hate it, for it is accursed. Have you gone through your home? I have a couple of items that I'm really questioning, and I gave them to my husband and asked him to please pray and see what he thinks. Some things that we need to remove from our home. And you shall remember that Yahuah your Elohim led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you, prove you, to know what was in your heart, whether you guard his commands or not. And he humbled you and let you suffer hunger, and he fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, to make you know that man does not live by bread alone. There it is. That's what Yahuah, what's that? My brain just quoted. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of Yahuah. Your garments did not wear out on you, nor did your foot swell these 40 years. Thus you shall know in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so Yahuah your Elohim disciplines you. Therefore you shall guard the commands of Yahuah your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to fear him. I couldn't sleep last night. And I was laying there and I was pondering the whole fear him, because I was thinking of a lot of things. One, I was thinking about how amazing Moses, his whole life. And just what got me there is, I know a lot of people right now that are going through a lot of really major life transitions. And it's scary and it's hard. And I started thinking about Moshe and how, he was a Hebrew child, and then he ended up being taken away from his true mother, at 2, after she had weaned him and gave him to Pharaoh's daughter to raise in the palace. Then he was raised as a prince in the palace. And then he goes through a life change where then he goes and he kills the Egyptian because he's beating the Hebrew slave. And then the next day, the 2 Hebrews that are fighting, they confront him and say, hey, we saw what you did, or we know what you did. You killed, are you going to kill us too? Then he fears Pharaoh and he leaves, and he goes out to Midian and with Jethro. And then it's just talk about a lot. And then the whole 40 years, and the whole thing of let my people go and all of that. And then the 40 years in the desert. And then, and then he gets all the way to the end and he can't even go into the promised land. And talk about someone who went through a lot of life changes that were scary. and he endured, and he remained faithful. Anyway, so but it got me to, what that fear, of, the Shekinah glory, the pillar and the fire, and how awesome and terrifying it had to have been. And I was just kind of pondering and meditating on his goodness. And, because I've never understood the fear of the Lord, and I know it means an awesome, deep respect. And then I just had this feeling come over me of just this awesome, deep respect of, I've been such a screw up my whole life. And he still continues to love me and offer grace and teach me and lead me and guide me. And as his daughter, it's just, wow. So anyway, to walk in his ways and to fear him, walk in reverence and awe of him. And for you, Yahuah your Elohim, whoops, sorry, I have to wipe out the leaky eyes. And Yahuah your Elohim is bringing you into a good land, a land of streams and waters, of fountains and springs that flow out of the valleys and hills, and a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land in which you eat bread without scarcity, in which you do not lack at all, a land whose stones are iron, and out of those hills you dig copper. And you shall eat and be satisfied, and shall bless Yahuah your Elohim for the good land which he has given you. Be on guard, lest you forget Yahuah your Elohim by not guarding his commands and his right rulings and his laws, which I command you today. Lest you eat and shall be satisfied, and build lovely houses and shall dwell in them, and your herds and your flocks increase, and your silver and your gold are increased, and all that you have increased, that your heart then becomes lifted up, and you forget Yahuah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim from the house of bondage. And that's, the awe is, I was in bondage my whole life, in bondage to in my mind, in bondage, tormented and in bondage. And literally, since I started guarding his commands and his right rulings and his laws and doing them, Shema, hearing and obeying, I'm not tormented in my mind anymore. I'm not in bondage. I walk in freedom. It's just, if you haven't experienced it, it's amazing. If you have, you know what I'm talking about. So, okay, so, and your herds and your flocks increase, and your silver and your gold are increased, and all that you have is increased, that your heart then becomes lifted up. Okay, already. And, and then you forget Yahuah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim in the house of bondage, who led you through that great and awesome wilderness, fiery serpents and scorpions and thirst where there was no water, who brought you water for you out from a flinty rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers did not know, in order to humble you and to try you, to humble you and try you, to do you good in the end. That's the Father told me the beginning of this year, in January of the Gregorian year 2024, that it was going to be a hard year, and that we were going to be humbled and tried, and we were going to be crushed, but it was going to be for him to do good to us in the end, because he's a promise keeper. Thou shall then say in your heart, my power and strength of my hand have made for me this wealth. But you shall remember Yahuah your Elohim, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, in order to establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is today. And it shall be, if you by any means forget Yahuah your Elohim and follow other mighty ones and serve them and bow yourself to them, I have warned you this day that you shall certainly perish. Like the nations which Yahuah is destroying before you, so you are to perish because you did not obey the voice of Yahuah your Elohim. 9. Hear, O Israel, you are passing over the Yarden today to go in to dispossess nations greater and stronger than yourself, cities great and walled up to the heavens, a people great and tall, the descendants of the Anakim, whom you know, and of whom you heard it said, who does stand before the descendants of Anak? And you shall know today that Yahuah your Elohim is he who is passing over before you as a consuming fire. He does destroy them and subdue them before you. So you shall dispossess them and destroy them quickly, as Yahuah has said to you. Do not think in your heart after Yahuah your Elohim has driven them out before you, saying, because of my righteousness, Yahuah has brought me in to possess this land. But it is because of the wrong of these nations that Yahuah is driving them out from before you. And if you've listened to my past couple of the Bible studies, that I had learned, because I always had a problem with why are you going and having him kill women and children? That just makes no sense. Doesn't the Ten Commandments say thou shalt not kill? Because that's what I was taught as a Catholic. I had a little bracelet and it had all the 10 Commandments that said thou shalt not kill. That's not what it says. It says thou shalt not murder. And there's a big difference between killing and murdering. And the reason he's having them go and put these people under the ban, put them to death, women and children and all of them, is because one, it's the descendants of Lot that stole the land through Canaan and them, the Canaanites, that's who's there, stole the land when Noah had, it was Ham, I think, was supposed to go to the south, Japheth was supposed to go to the north, and Shem was supposed to have this land. And Ham, the descendants of Ham, went in and took it illegally, first off, and the descendants of Ham are the giants. Because remember, we have where the flood was to get rid of the giants. How are there still giants after the flood? And from what I have learned, or in researching it, it was Ham's wife that came over on the ark, who had DNA of the giants, the Anakim, which are not Yahuwah. They're not of Yahuwah. They're an abomination. They were from the Watchers that came down and had intercourse with, with the human women. So they were hybrids. They were mixed. They weren't created by the Creator. They were created by an abomination and sin. So, and it's right here. It is because of the wrong of these nations that Yahuwah is driving them out from before you. It is not because of your righteousness or the uprightness of your heart that you go on to possess this land, but because of the wrong of these nations that I, your Elohim, drives them out from before you, in order to establish the word which I, Yahuwah, Yahuwah swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yatzig, and to Jacob, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And you shall know that Yahuwah your Elohim is not giving you this good land to possess because of your righteousness, for you are a stiff-necked people. It took them 40 years to go really not very far at all. What was it? It was in the second year when they decided that they weren't able to go take the land, and then they had to go wander for 38 more years. A stiff-necked people, which we are too. Remember, do not forget how you provoked to wrath Yahuwah your Elohim in the wilderness from the day that you came out of the land of Mitzrayim until you came to this place. You have been rebellious against Yahuwah. Even in Horeb, you made Yahuwah wroth, so that Yahuwah was enraged with you to destroy you. When I went up to the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant which Yahuwah made with you, then I state the covenant which Yahuwah made with you. That's the ketuvah, the marriage covenant. And then I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, and I did not eat bread nor drink water. Then Yahuah gave me the 2 tablets of stone written with the finger of Elohim, and on them were all the words which Yahuah had spoken to you on the mountain from the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly, when they said, we hear and we obey. Shema. And it came to be at the end of the 40 days and 40 nights that Yahuah gave me the 2 tablets of stones and the tablets of the covenant, the marriage vows. Then Yahuah said to me, arise, go down quickly from here, for your people who you brought out of Mitzrayim have acted corruptly. They have quickly turned aside from the way which I commanded them, and they've made themselves a molded image. And Yahuah spoke to me, saying, I have seen the people, and look, they are stiff-necked people. Leave me alone so that I destroy them and blot out their name from under the heavens and make you a nation stronger and greater than they. Let me get rid of them, Moses, and let's just start over. But Moshe was so humble and so loved his people. Sorry, leave me alone that I destroy them and blot out their name from under the heavens and make you a nation stronger and greater than they. So I turned and came down from the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I looked and I saw you had sinned against Yahuah your Elohim and had made for yourself a molded calf. You had quickly turned aside from the way which Yahuah had commanded you. And I took the 2 tablets and threw them out of my 2 hands and broke them before your eyes. And I fell down before Yahuah as at the first 40 days and 40 nights. I did not eat bread and did not drink water because of all your sins. So he was up there. What is it? Not pleading, advocating for us. He was advocating for them. Yahuwah is our advocate, and Moshe is a form and a type of the Messiah. Sorry, here. I did not drink water of all your sins which you committed in doing evil in the eyes of Yahuwah to provoke him. For I was afraid of the discipline and the rage with which Yahuwah was wroth with you to destroy you. But Yahuwah listened to me. He pleaded with them, and he listened to him that time once more. And Yahuwah was very enraged with Aharon to destroy him. So I prayed for Aharon at that time. So he was their advocate. And I took your sin, the calf which you had made, and I burned it with fire, and I crushed it, and I ground it very small until it was as fine as dust, and I threw the dust into the stream and came down from the mountains. And at Taberah and at Massa and at Kibroth Hata Awath, you made Yahuwah wroth. And when Yahuwah sent you from Kadesh Barnea, saying, go up and possess the land which I have given you, then you rebelled against the mouth of Yahuwah your Elohim, and you neither trusted him nor listened to his voice. You have been rebellious against Yahuwah from the day that I knew you. So I fell down before Yahuwah the 40 days and 40 nights, for I fell down because Yahuwah had said he would destroy you. And I prayed to Yahuwah and said, O Master Yahuwah, do not destroy your people and your inheritance, from whom you have ransomed with your greatness, whom you have brought out of Mitzrayim with a strong hand. Remember your servants Abraham and Yitzchak and Jacob. Do not look on the stubbornness of this people, or on their wrong, or on their sin, just like Yahuwah advocates for us. Forgive them, Father, they don't know what they do. And their sin, lest the land from which you brought us should say, because Yahuwah has not able to bring them out. Wait a minute here. Remember your servants, Abraham. Okay, do not look on the stubbornness of this people, or on their wrong, or on their sin, lest the land from which you brought us should say, so Egypt, because of Yahuwah was not able to bring them to the land which he promised them, and because he had hated them, he had brought them out to kill them in the wilderness. And they are your people and your inheritance, whom you brought out by your great power and by your outstretched arm. How did he bring him out? He brought him out by the Messiah. At that time, Yahuah said to me, hew for yourself 2 tablets of stone like the first, and come to me on the mountain, and you shall make yourself an ark of wood. Then I write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke, and you shall put them in the ark. So I made the ark of acacia wood, hewed 2 tablets of stone like the first, and went up to the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hand. And he wrote on the tablets according to the first writing, the 10 words which Yahuah had spoken to you in the mountain from the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. Then Yahuah gave them to me, and I turned and came down from the mountain and put the tablets in the ark which I had made, and they are there as Yahuah commanded me. Now the children of Israel set out from the wells of Benai Yakan to Mesrah. Aharon died there, and he was buried there. So like 38 years elapsed. And then Aaron died and was buried there. And Eleazar, his son, became priest in his place. And from there, he set out to Gudgodah, and from Gudgodah to Yabatha, a land of rivers of water. And at that time, Yahuah separated the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of Yahuah and to stand before Yahuah to serve him and to bless in his name to this day. Therefore, Levi has no portion nor inheritance with his brothers. Yahuah is his inheritance, as Yahuah your Elohim promised him. And I stayed in the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, and Yahuah heard me at this time also, and Yahuah chose not to destroy you. And Yahuah said to me, arise, go before the people to set out, and let them go in and possess the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. And now, Israel, what is Yahuah your Elohim asking of you? But to fear your but here's what he requires of us: to fear Yahuah your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahuah your Elohim with all of your heart and with all of your being, and to guard the commands of Yahuah and his laws, which I command you today for your good. His laws and commands are for our good. Just like our children, we give them rules and boundaries for their good, to keep them safe, to keep them protected, to keep them provided for. See the heavens and the heaven of heavens belong to Yahuah your Elohim, also the earth with all that is in it. Yahuah delighted only in your fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, you above all peoples, as it is today. And you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart and harden your neck no more. For Yahuah your Elohim is Elohim of the mighty ones and master of the masters, the great El, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality nor takes a bribe. He executes right rulings for the fatherless and the widow, and loves the sojourner, and gives him food and a garment. And you shall love the sojourner, for you are sojourners in the land of Mitzrayim. Fear Yahuah your Elohim, serve him and cling to him, and swear by his name. His name. If he didn't want us to know his name, if he wanted us to call him Lord and God, he wouldn't have said, swear by his name, Yahuah. He is your praise, and he is your Elohim, who has done for you these great and awesome deeds which your eyes have seen. Your fathers went down to Mitzrayim with 70 beings, and now Yahuah your Elohim has made you as numerous as the stars in the heavens, like he promised Abraham. 11. And you shall love Yahuah your Elohim and guard his charge, even his laws and his right rulings and his commands always. And you shall know today, for it is not your children who have not known and who have not seen the discipline of Yahuah your Elohim. For it is not your children. Okay, yeah. His greatness, his strong hand, and his outstretched arm. and his signs and his works which he had done in the midst of Mitzrayim to Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and to all the land. And that which he had done to the army of Mitzrayim and to their horses and their chariots, when he made the waters of the Sea of Reeds overflow them as they pursued you, and how Yahuah has destroyed them to this day. And what he had done to you in the wilderness till you came to this place, and what he had done to Dathan and to Abram, the sons of Eliab, sons of Reuben. And when the earth opened up its mouth and swallowed them up, and their households and their tents, and all the living creatures that were in their possession in the midst of all Israel. For you are the eyes that saw all of the great work of Yahuah which he did, and you shall guard every command which I command you today, so that you are strong and shall go in and shall possess the land which you are passing over to possess, and to prolong your days in the land which Yahuah swore to give to your fathers, to them and to their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land which you are going in to possess is not like the land of Mitzrayim, from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and watered it by foot as a vegetable garden. Oh, this is interesting. But the land which you are passing over to possess is a land of hills and valleys, which drinks water from the rain of the heavens. A land which Yahuah your Elohim looks after. The eyes of Yahuah your Elohim are always on it, from the beginning of the year to the latter end of the year. And it shall be that if you diligently, here we go, if you diligently obey my commands, which I command you today, to love Yahuah your Elohim, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your being, then I shall give you the rain for the land in its season, and the early rains and the latter rains, and you shall gather in your grains and your new wine and your oil. So he has promised to completely provide that everything will grow, thrive, and be abundant. And and this is something that really hits home, because we have a very fragile well. I mean, it's one of the major chinks in our, self-sufficiency armor, is that our our well doesn't always keep up, and I don't have an abundance of water. When I do dishes like when you're camping, you use very little water, and I've learned how to use very little water, and I don't let our water run. And, my little plants in my gardens get as much as they need, but they don't, I'm not able to overwater. So, I mean, what a beautiful promise is that will all be handled if you diligently obey the commands. So, and I shall give grass of your fields for your livestock, and you shall eat and be satisfied. Guard yourself, lest your heart be deceived, and you turn aside and serve other mighty ones and bow down to them. Then the displeasure of Yahuah shall burn against you, and he shall shut up the heavens, and there will be no rain, and the land not give its increase, and you shall perish quickly from the good land which Yahuah is giving you. And you shall lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your being, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and frontlets they shall be and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall teach them to your children, speaking of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. I love that verse. I mean, you just picture it. That's what we're supposed to be doing with our time when we're, like the other morning, Rusty got up and he came out and he was watering with me, which is he doesn't normally do. Normally, I let him sleep in on the weekends and I go water, but he woke up earlier with me. And so he came out for the first time. And we're able to talk, about how the Father's blessing us and what he's teaching us and what he wants from us. And that's just what we're supposed to be doing, is we're supposed to teach them to our children and speak of his ways when we're hanging out in the house, and when we're taking a walk and going for a drive. And when you lie down. Last night, we go to bed and we read Proverbs, the proverb of the day, and then we meditate on it. And when we rise up, I get up and I read the proverb of the day again, and shall write them on your doorpost. And this is the next thing I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be writing the Shema for my doorpost and my gates. So that your days and the days of your children are increased in the soil which Yahuwah swore to your fathers to give them as the days of the heavens on earth. For if you diligently guard all of these commands which I command you to do, to love Yahuwah your Elohim and to walk in all his ways and to cling to him, then Yahuwah shall drive out all of these nations from before you, and you shall dispose greater and stronger nations than you. Every place on which the sole of your foot treads is yours, from the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river and the river Euphrates, even to the western sea is your border. No man shall stand against you. Yahuwah your Elohim shall put dread of you and fear of you upon all the land where you tread, as he has spoken to you. That is just beautiful. Okay, so I'm running a little long, and I do apologize because Isaiah is going to be a little bit longer also, but just bear with me if you would, please, because I want to go ahead and finish this. So we've got Isaiah 49, 14 through 51:3. So 14. But Zion says, Yahuwah has forsaken me, and Yahuwah has forgotten me. Would a woman forget her nursing child and not have compassion on the son of her womb, though they forget? I never forget you. See, I have inscribed you on the palm of my hands. Your walls are always before me. Your sons shall hurry, your destroyers. Your sons shall hurry, your destroyers and those who laid you to waste apart from you. Lift up your eyes round about and see all of them gather together and come to you. As I live, declares Yahuwah, you shall put on them as an ornament and bind them on you as a bride does. For your wastes and your deserted places and the lands of your destruction shall soon be too narrow for the inhabitants, while those who swallowed you up are far away. The sons of your bereavement shall yet say in your ears, this place is too narrow for me, make room for me to live. And you shall say in your heart, who has brought forth these for me, since I am bereaved and barren, and exile and wandering to and fro? And who reared them? See, I was left alone, and where did these come? Thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I lift my hand up to the nations and set up my banner for the peoples, and they shall bring your sons and their arms and your daughters carried on their shoulders. And the sovereigns shall be your foster fathers, and their sovereigns your nursing mothers. They bow down to you with their faces to the earth and lick up the dust of your feet, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. Those who wait for me shall not be ashamed. I love that. Is prey taken from the mighty and the captives of the righteous delivered? Yet, thus says Yahuwah, even the captives of the mighty are taken away, and the prey of the ruthless is delivered. And I strive with him who strives with you, and I save your children. And I shall feed those who oppress you with their own flesh, and let them drink their own blood as sweet wine. All flesh shall know that I, Yahuwah, am your Savior and your Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. 50. Thus say Yahuwah, where is the certificate of your mother's divorce, whom I have put away, or which of my creditors is to whom I have sold you? Look, you were sold. You were sold for your crookedness, and your mother was put away for your transgression. This is where they went into exile because they turned away. They had a bad king and they forgot his ways. They stopped doing his commandments and his Sabbath, and they were taken away into exile. And Yahuwah gave Israel a writ of divorce. When I came, why was there no man? When I called, why was there no one to answer? Was my hand too short to ransom, or have I no power to deliver? See, by my rebuke, I dry up the sea. I make the rivers in the wilderness. Their fish stink, for there is not water, and die of thirst. I clothe the heavens with darkness and make sackcloth their covering. The Master Yahuwah has given me the tongue of taught ones, that I should know to help the weary with a word. He wakes me morning by morning. He wakes my ear to hear as taught ones. The master Yahuah has opened my ear, and I was not rebellious, nor did I turn away. I gave back my back to those who struck me, and my cheeks to those who plucked out the beard. I did not hide my face from humiliation and from spitting. That's Yahuah. And the master, that's Yahushua. And the master Yahuah helps me. Therefore, I shall not be humiliated. So I have set my face like flint, and I know that I am not put to shame. Near is he who declares me right, who would contend with me. Let us stand together. Who is my adversary? Let him come near me. See, the master Yahuah helps me. Who would declare me wrong? See, all of them wear out like a garment, and moths eat them. Who among you is fearing Yahuah, obeying the voice of his servant, that has walked in darkness and has no light? Let him trust in the name of Yahuah and lean upon his Elohim. See, all of you who light a fire, girding on burning arrows, walk in the light of your fire, and in the burning arrows you have lit. From my hand you shall have this. You shall lie down in grief. 51. Listen to me, you who pursue righteousness, seeking Yahuah. Look to the rock you were hewn from, and to the hole of the pit you were dug from. Look to Abraham, your father, and to Sarah, who bore you. For he was alone when I called him, and I blessed him and increased him. Yeah. For Yahuah shall comfort Zion. He shall comfort all her waste places. For he makes her wilderness like Eden, and her deserts like the garden of Yahuah. Joy and gladness are found in it, thanksgiving and the voice of song. Listen to me, my people, and give ear to me, O my nation. For the Torah goes forth from me, and my right ruling I set a light to peoples. My righteousness is near. My deliverance shall go forth, and my arms judge peoples. Coastlands wait upon me, and for my arm they wait expectantly. Lift up your eyes to the heavens, and look on the earth beneath. For the heavens shall vanish like smoke, and the earth wear out like a garment, and those who dwell in it die as gnats. But my deliverance is forever, and my righteousness is not broken. My deliverance is forever. My righteousness is not broken. Listen to me, you who know righteousness, a people in whose heart is my Torah. Do not fear the reproach of men, nor be afraid of their revilings. For a moth eats them like a garment, and a worm eats them like wool. But my righteousness is forever, my deliverance to all generations. Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of Yahuah, awake as in the days of old, everlasting generations. Was it not you who cut Rahab apart and pierced the crocodile? Was it not you who dried up the sea and the waters of the great deep, and who made the depths of the sea a way for the redeemed to pass over? And let the ransomed of Yahuah return, and they shall come to Zion with singing and everlasting joy on their heads. Let them attain joy and gladness. Sorrow and sighing shall flee away. Down to 51, 3. Oh, sorry. 51, 3. I went too far. So we're going to stop there. And next I am going to Matthew 11, 3 through 20. I'm sorry. Let's see. Matthew 16, 3 through 20. 13 through 20. Is that correct? Oh, they have different ones. So, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So now when Yahusha came into the parts of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his taught ones, saying, who do men say the son of Adam is? And they say, some say Yohanan, John, the immerser, John the Baptist, and some Eliyahu, and others Jeremiah, and one of the prophets. And he said to them, and you, who do you say that I am? And Shimon, Kepha, Peter, Simon Peter, answered, saying, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living Elohim." And Yeshua answered and saying to him, "Blessed are you, Shimon Bar Yonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven, in the heavens." And interesting, in the heavens, plural. "And I also say to you that you are Kepha. On this rock I shall build my assembly, and the gates of Sheol shall not overcome it. And I shall give you the keys of the reign of the heavens, and whatever you bind on earth shall be having been bound in the heavens, and whatever you loose on earth shall having been loosed in the heavens." Then he warned his taught ones that they should say to no one that he is Yeshua the Messiah. So, one couple seconds to spare. Be blessed. Father, thank you so much for the opportunity, for the technology to be able to share your word with people all over. And Father, I pray that this goes out and it reaches the people that you want it to reach. Father, I pray that everyone that watches and listens to this, that you would give them a hunger and a thirst, a passion and a desire to know you more, to walk in covenant, and to feast on your word daily, to walk in a covenant relationship with you. Thank you for all the beautiful things that you do for us, for our good. In Yahushua's mighty name. Amen. Thank you so much for your time. I definitely very much appreciate you spending this time. And we'll see you next week. Bye.